All right. Well, welcome to Maine Preservation's 55th annual meeting. My name is Cale Pickford, and I'm the president of the Board of Trustees, Maine Preservation. And I want to thank you all for being here virtually this afternoon. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our preservation champions and major donors who have generously contributed $5,000 or more in the last year. Susan and George Craig, Diversified Communications, Ann and Ben Niles, Ann and Donnell Rogers, Anne Marie and John Thron. You've taken Maine Preservation to a new level, and we thank you. And thanks, these very generous patrons provide a strong underpinning for all our activities and our events. And I also want to extend our appreciation to our sponsors, starting with the generosity of our industry leaders, Ginberg Properties, Down East Magazine, Norway Savings Bank, Preservation Timber Framing, and Restoration Resources. And we're also deeply grateful for our underwriter, lead, and supporting sponsors who are also listed here. We have a fantastic program for you all today. First is our short annual business meeting. I'd also like to thank our preservation champions and sorry about that. I would like now to officially call to order the 2026 annual business meeting of Maine Preservation. This meeting is for members of Maine Preservation. If you're not a member of Maine Preservation, please refrain from voting on the motions or elections of trustees. We hope you will join us soon. A link to the minutes from last year's meeting was sent to pre-registrants, is included in the chat. At this point, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? The ayes have it. Motion passes. At this point, I'd like to now introduce Rob Harville, a member of the Finance Committee, to give the Treasurer's report.
Good afternoon. This is a report for our fiscal year ending in 2026, which covered April 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2026. For revenue, we ended the fiscal year with a $17,899 surplus. Our total assets are $1,145,261, which includes restricted funds for easement management and other activities. Long-term investments are maintained at Maine Community Foundation. We had $851,905 in our two easement funds at the beginning of the fiscal year and ended the fiscal year with $903,205 in our easement funds. This represents an increase of $51,300 over the course of the last fiscal year due to market conditions and a release of board-designated funds. The organization holds no debt obligation or mortgages. For expenses, the organization successfully reduced expenses throughout the year to narrow the budget gap. This concludes the Treasurer's report for the past fiscal year. Thank you for your attention on it.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. I'd like now to introduce the Governance Committee Chair, Marika Thorman, to give the Nominating Committee report.
Thank you, Cale and Rob, and welcome everyone to the annual meeting. I'm pleased to begin the nominating report by placing in nomination for their initial 3-year term as a trustee of Maine Preservation: Nadine Cancel of Montville, Tim Hanley of Falmouth, and Alessandra Malone of Portland. I place their names on behalf of the nominating committee, which as a committee motion does not require a second, and move the question.
Cale, you're muted.
All right. Sorry about that. All those in favor, vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Please respond to the poll on your screen. The ayes have it.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to place a nomination for their second 3-year term as a trustee of Maine Preservation: Anastasia Azanaro Moore of Elliott, Erica Kramer of Pittsburgh, Robert Libby of Bangor, DeCourcy McIntosh of Falmouth, and Willie Wong of Waldoboro.
Thank you, Marika. All those in favor, vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Please respond to the poll on the screen.
Before we entertain our next vote, I want to recognize the hard work and dedication of Toby Scott. He has made a tremendous contribution to Maine preservation, and we are so grateful for his many, many years of service as a trustee. We are thrilled that Toby is willing to continue on as an advisory trustee. And with that, I'd like to place a nomination for their initial one-year term as an advisory trustee of Maine preservation, Toby Scott of Freeport.
All those in favor, vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Please respond to the poll on the screen. The ayes have it.
Finally, I would now like to place in nomination the current advisory trustees as printed on the program. I will not read their names. The nominating committee places the group as printed in the program in nomination, and I move the question.
All those in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote nay. Please respond to the poll on the screen. The ayes have it. Thank you. And thank you, Marika, for that report of the nominating committee. And my heartfelt welcome to our new trustees. I now entertain a motion to adjourn the 2026 annual meeting. Do we have a second? With that, the meeting is adjourned. I'll now hand the reins over to our executive director, Tara Kelly, to give us an update on the priority initiatives at Maine Preservation.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Cale. As Cale said, I'm Tara Kelly, Executive Director of Maine Preservation. I know many of you are members. I know a few of you here are new trustees, so welcome. And this will be a little bit of a refresher for a few. Our mission is to promote and to protect Maine's historic fabric, which in turn stimulates cultural and economic vitality across the state. We have 5 key areas of our work, and today I will highlight some recent updates. Just a couple of weeks ago, we held a 3-day residency in Westcasset. We visited the Nichols Swartwell House, Castle Tucker, St. Philip's Church, the Old Jail, Maine Art Gallery, and several Main Street businesses and private homes. We met with business owners, homeowners, nonprofit organizations, including Historic New England and the Lincoln County Historical Association. We hosted a meet and greet at the Maine Art Gallery on the Thursday evening of that week, May 14th. Coming up, we will be hosting our next Monday meetup. This one is for faith communities. Please join us at noon on Monday, June 1st, if you steward a historic house of worship. Moving on to financial support. For the 7th year, we recently awarded close to $131,000 to 20 nonprofits across the state in partnership with the 1772 Foundation. You'll see those organizations listed here, and grants ranged from $1,700 to the maximum of $10,000. We also recently completed the 5th annual Jane's Walk Festival, which was a great success. Close to 2,000 participants are estimated to have spent the day learning about Maine's communities. And meanwhile, our 4 new summer fellows, Ariel Pearson, Grace Hannah Buck, Maggie Young, and Pippa Berry, will be joining us for the month of June and then splitting off to work with our trades partners. And finally, we have been regularly traveling to Augusta this session to advance our legislation to improve the tax credit program, Appropriations and Financial Affairs Committee. However, we will introduce it again next session. We've also submitted comments to the National Capital Planning Commission about the proposed 90,000 square foot ballroom addition to the White House and are closely tracking the federal budget process for the Historic Preservation Fund. And lastly, just a reminder to consider joining us as a patron or purchasing tickets for our annual gala, which will take place on September 10th at Wolf's Neck Center in Freeport, September 10th. Become a patron. I will drop a link in the chat. If you want to be a patron and be in the printed invitation, please secure your commitment by this coming Tuesday. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Brad Miller to talk about our new children's education curriculum.
Thanks, Tara. And thanks for the trustees for running us through our annual meeting. So as Tara mentioned, we have 5 key areas of work to our mission. The most important, I think, is education. Over the years, we've developed a webinar series, produced a number of useful informational brochures for historic building stewards, and seen our regularly scheduled lecture series evolve into today's Old Building Forum. In the past few years, we have also had a focus on furthering the historic trades in Maine through our Patricia Anderson Summer Fellows Program, piloting a high school level historic trades fellowship. And then in 2023, we partnered with our Northeast statewide partners to assess the state of the historic trades here in Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York. The resulting report, Understanding and Advancing the Preservation Trades, affirmed through research and interviews with historic tradespeople what we kind of already knew anecdotally. Preservation trades are in demand and provide a fulfilling career path, but we're experiencing an extreme workforce shortage. Key among the reasons for that shortage is the lack of awareness for career pathways in the historic trades and the need to foster interest and excitement about these pathways at an early age. While we work with our partners towards big long-term fixes like investments in trades training programs, apprenticeships, and credentialing, we felt that we could also be doing more to introduce the fundamental ideas and importance of preservation to the next generation of Mainers. As one interviewee in the report stated, anyone doing this work must have a love and passion for the work and preservation. The need to realize that this is not just a job, but a career that comes with pride and excitement. And we hope through our curriculum that we'll be doing just that. So with the help of grant support from the Davis Family Foundation and the Margaret E. Burnham Charitable Trust, we're able to engage a consultant in 2024 who jump-started development of an elementary level historic preservation curriculum. Staff then picked up the torch with added support from one of our summer fellows and a remote intern. So what emerged was It Takes a Village, a historic preservation curriculum. This is an engaging and interactive learning experience for elementary school students that aligns with state standards for 3rd and 4th grades. The goals of the curriculum are to increase awareness and appreciation for the built environment and how these historic resources contribute to the vitality and identity of Maine's communities, improve visual literacy for architectural building types, features, and styles, and introduce historic preservation trades and the adaptive reuse of buildings. And also, ultimately, to foster a sense of personal investment and community stewardship in the place that you live. The curriculum includes lesson plans, PowerPoint presentations, and supporting materials for 5 60-minute learning sessions. The slideshows are filled with historic and contemporary images of buildings from across Maine, from Kittery to Fort Kent, the coast to the mountains, and cities, towns, and villages in between. The lessons are intended to build upon one another and include activities such as a community walk, scavenger hunt, and even designing your own building. The curriculum is designed for use by public and private schools, homeschool teachers, libraries, local museums, historical societies, and other after-school programs. The first lesson introduces traditional building materials. Students will gain an understanding of materials used in traditional construction with a specific focus on Maine. Learn about materials that were produced locally and the impact they had on Maine's economy and history. Learn to recognize and identify common building materials like granite, wood, and glass. Then in lesson 2, students move on to architectural elements and the ways they appear on different buildings. It encourages students to look closely at their surroundings to notice the little details they may encounter every day. Just like a windowsill or a gambrel roof, or columns on the front of a building. Learning objectives include identifying and naming common elements that appear on buildings in Maine, understanding the way the same element may appear variously on different types of buildings, and to develop an awareness for the details and patterns in the built environment. Some of the architectural elements introduced to the lesson are pulled from the Nathaniel Treat House in Orono. Students are then asked in the lesson's first activity to identify the elements on a complete sketch of the house. Lesson 3 then highlights the people of preservation, introducing students to 9 different careers within the preservation trades, and explores the strengths and skills of each. Objectives of the lesson are for students to discover a variety of jobs that play a role in maintaining historic buildings and learn about the skills and types of training required for each of these careers. Students are encouraged to think about their own abilities and interests. Among the highlighted tradespeople are plasterers, timber framers, and even stonewallers. In the 4th lesson, students will learn to recognize some of the most common buildings in Maine and explain why buildings look the way they do. It seems simple, but these are kind of the building blocks of what we do when we're out in our communities. Students will learn to identify a building's original intended purpose based on architectural patterns. Think steeples, barn doors, and storefront windows. Be introduced to the idea of adaptive reuse and how a building's use can change with time, and how to identify these buildings in their own community. And then the final lesson, lesson 5, is an exploration of how a building's function can change with time to meet a community's needs. It provides examples of how buildings have been adapted throughout the state and gives students the opportunity to think about what similar projects have happened in their own community. One example given is the former Notre Dame de Lourdes Church converted in apartments in Saco, pictured here. Students will learn the value of preservation, not just for its historic importance, but its environmental and economic purposes in Maine, and discover what the changing use of buildings means for a community. This starts to encourage looking at preservation as a present and future practice that shapes the built environment, rather than just one that is focused on the past. And so upon completion of creating this curriculum, we've sought review and feedback from educators from the in-school, homeschool, and after-school spaces in the lead up to this launch, and we'll continue to seek feedback through a brief survey provided with the curriculum. So if you do use the curriculum, we encourage you to please let us know what you think. As of today, the curriculum is available for download on our Education Resources Hub at mainpreservation.org/yourfutureinpreservation, and we'll drop that in the chat. We have already submitted to the Maine Online Open Source Education Platform, or MOOS, at the Maine Department of Education. So while they only currently developed curriculum in-house, they've reviewed the curriculum and are starting to see how they can adapt it to create their own. We are also distributed to partners at Historic Rangeley and the Lincoln County Historical Association, with the latter sharing it with educator connections throughout the county, which is pretty exciting. We'll also be sending the curriculum opportunity through partner networks in the coming weeks. This includes groups like Maine Archives and Museums. We'll be promoting via social media and our mailing list in the coming weeks. And we please ask for everyone attending today to please share with those who may be interested. We would love to see this curriculum get spread across the state. And ultimately, our goal is to get a curriculum piloted in at least, one school administrative unit in all of Maine's 16 counties and many other settings. So we hope that It Takes a Village historic preservation curriculum will inspire and educate young Mainers about the importance of preserving our rich heritage. I'm now pleased to introduce Rose Nelson, Senior Programs Coordinator at the Maine Redevelopment Land Bank Authority. Rose is a Mid-Coast Maine native, now living in Southern Maine. She draws on her background in government affairs, residential real estate, construction risk management, and project management to inform her current work. I think you'll see through Rose's presentation that there's a lot of overlap in the mission of our organizations. She'll even be sharing news about how we will be partnering to support and encourage the adaptive reuse of buildings across the state, much like lesson 5 from our curriculum. And then following Rose's presentation, we'll take time for questions from the crowd. So Rose, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Brad. I'm already thinking about families that I know that I want to send that curriculum to. So thanks for getting my brain going about that. Glad to be here again. Rose Nelson with Maine Redevelopment. Just a bit about us. We were created by Maine statute in 2022. We're an independent quasi-governmental entity, kind of like Maine Housing or Maine Connectivity Authority, and we have our funding is comes from the tipping fees on construction and demolition debris. So it's kind of a unique way that they figured out how to make the funds work. And our mission is to partner with communities to revitalize their properties and reimagine potential for Maine's future. Really, the communities are our clients, and we want to make sure that they are on board with whatever happens with their properties, and make sure that it fits their comp plan and their vision for their community moving forward. This is our team. You may have seen us around the state. Scott LaFlemme uh, is our new executive director. He's starting in July, and then we have our deputy director Jen Littoral, our programs manager Gabe Govin, and then myself, our senior programs coordinator. And I really like this quote here, that we all have different hometowns and work experiences, but we're inspired by what the communities can do with properties. And we're ready for any challenges that may come. According to our statute, our we're focused on abandoned, contaminated, and functionally obsolete properties. And like, what does that mean? It means a lot of things. It could be mills, factories, mixed use, commercial, residential. If it's been a building at one point, and is it falls into one of these categories of abandoned, contaminated, or functionally obsolete, then it's something that we're excited to work on. We really like this word stuck. Some of the Because a lot of the reasons that properties come across our plate is that they've they might have title issues. They might be a brownfield site. They might have maybe foreclosed on, or they could be a myriad of reasons why. And it's just that the private market hasn't had an interest because maybe the project doesn't pencil without a brownfields grant or something, or the title isn't clear. So that kind of brings us to this slide we have about the pit of despair. So for us, we really focus on projects that are in the pit of despair. While our goal is to either intervene before it gets there, or to help it get out of the pit of despair. This is like this is something that we find that we keep talking about is this kind of life cycle of, where has the market failed the property, and how can we intervene to give it that layup, or to totally lift it out of the pit of despair. So a couple examples I'll get into of where we're intervening early is our lightning stabilization grants, and then but where we've intervened where the market has failed is in Heartland, with the tannery site there. These are our 4 program areas. We have municipal technical assistance, brownfields, land banking, and special projects. So we're a redevelopment organization, and even though land banking is in our official name, it's just one of the tools in our toolkit. So we start with municipal technical assistance. Again, communities are our main clients, and the technical assistance might be helping them with data tools, helping them create toolkits, which I'll speak on in a bit. And also we sometimes play a role as a convener, trying to connect the right individuals with the right organizations to help unstick a property because it might not be um, it might have a private owner, um, and we want to be cognizant of that. Secondly, when it comes to brownfields, we're an eligible entity for brownfields funding. We've applied for an assessment grant, and a couple colleagues are actually at a RLF, a revolving loan fund um, program today. And then for the Heartland Tannery, we have applied for a cleanup grant there. Uh, then when it comes to land banking, this is like a land bank that you might hear about in other states where they acquire a property, hold it, and then clear the title, and then return it to productive reuse. Um, so this is one of the tools we have, and we're also using this land banking in Heartland where we acquired the property. Lastly, there's special projects, which is like our research and development wing. We've also lovingly called them the unicorn farm before. So these are just where we're trying to figure out, ooh, there's this really cool property and and we're not really sure where we'd fit, but we want to join in the problem solving for that. It might include a private-public partnership or some other creative financing tool. So I talked about a little bit about policy and R&D with special projects, but our lightning grants and life safety are two really specific pieces of the municipal technical assistance program that we're excited about. One, the lightning grants are $25,000 for to help stabilize a property while a community maybe does some visioning or continues planning for the redevelopment. It could be a roof, it could be siding, just anything to get it through the winter, because we all know how tough Maine winters are on houses and other properties. So this is a program that I'll talk more about on the next slides. But the other part of that we've heard about around the state, and I'm sure this won't be new to this crowd, is the life safety and getting the top floors of buildings up to code with fire suppression and sprinkler systems. We keep hearing about this, and so we're piloting this with the town of Rumford on their old fire station. So we're excited to see where that goes. So the lightning grant recipients that we've had so far are Van Buren, Jonesport, Northern Maine Development Corporation, and Holton, and Westfield and Union. And these are, I like this quote from Jonesport that this grant gives us hope and the momentum to bring Main Street back to life. This is this is something that we hear again and again as a municipality acquired the property and it's kind of just sitting there and everybody's driving by, but it needs a new roof and they want to do something. And so we step in and provide that funding to help get it through the winter. These are some examples. So you can see Van Buren. I think this was the cover photo I sent over for this presentation. The other one is a downtown Holton property, and then in Jonesport is the old mercantile building they have there. I talked about Heartland earlier, but this is our first land bank property. There's several parcels downtown, and it's all, as you can kind of see on the map here, uh, it's all along the riverside, and they, one of the things about Heartland is they haven't seen the river without the tannery in like 100 years. And so by we acquired the property back in January on a very cold day, and that's when this photo was taken. And so our plan is we've applied for EPA brownfields cleanup to clean up the site, and then we're going to be holding visioning sessions with the town of Heartland as they figure out what's going to go here. We had in conjunction with the EPA grant application, we did have a community visioning session, and there was about 50 people that came to that. So we were really encouraged by that excitement in the community. And I also noticed that the Heartland Historic Society was on your grant list, which is exciting to us because they've been very engaged since we started. Another shifting from tanneries to schools, one of the other property types that we've seen are frequently vacant and kind of can be stuck is former schools. So in partnership with the Mid-Coast Council of Governments, we developed a toolkit to help municipalities plan and repurpose these retired school buildings. Where it's not quite done yet, but we're very close. And it's supposed to help communities figure out their visioning and determine that next chapter for the school building. As part of that, I took a deep dive into the Department of Education data about how many schools are indeed vacant, and I came up with about 3 dozen, and then every time I give this presentation, there's more. So if you know of more, if you know of a school that maybe I don't have on the list, please reach out and let me know, because the Department of Ed data only goes back as far as about 2017. So there's some schools like Union or Van Buren, Canton and Robinson are some of the ones that I heard about after, and I think it's because they've been closed longer than 2017. So about schools is we've actually heard about it as a nationwide challenge, but in Maine, and I'm sure nationwide too, but there's just a strong desire to put them back to use. Everyone remembers going there. They have fond memories, of maybe skipping class or, or of just teachers that meant a lot to them. And so we figured out that housing is often a desired outcome. So I don't have a slide on it, but we did put forth legislation that would carve out funds to help fill the gap with reusing the schools. We've found that in talking with developers that sometimes these projects just don't pencil out even when you do stack all of the possible subsidies. So trying to figure that out is something that is on the horizon for us. These are the kind of contents of the toolkit, assessment of municipal capacity, looking at the different site conditions, community involvement, feasible reuse, capital stack, and then implementation. Another thing that we've found is, and I'm sure you run into this as well, is there's a lot of talent hiding out there between folks that might have good skills to become involved in a school reuse committee, which is what a lot of towns form, and so trying to guide municipal leaders and identifying that is something that we want to be thinking about as well. And then my last slide is about the historic reuse toolkit that we are just getting started with Maine Preservation. We're granting them $25,000 to complete the reuse, which is reclaim existing underutilized structures effectively toolkit. It's going to be interactive and user-friendly to help communities determine the adaptive reuse for historic buildings. So excited to work on that with Brad. And Brad, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Rose. Yeah, so we're pretty excited about this. This is a project that we've been trying to get off the ground for a couple of years, including one false start when the federal grant funds were called back. And so we think it's going to be a really great opportunity to help build capacity in local communities. So the quick in kind of 60 seconds on the reuse guide is that it would be essentially an online platform that would lead communities or interested citizen groups or local governments and asking them all the questions about a potential building, maybe that white elephant building in your community, and how do you even go about thinking about how it's going to be reused? What are the resources, the financial tools, the capacity building tools that would help figure out the highest and best use for a building? This is a question that we get at least on a monthly basis. We have this former Grange Hall. It's sitting there vacant. Maybe the town acquired it. What do we do? How do we pay for its reuse? Should it be housing? Should it be owned by a nonprofit and have a kind of a community mission driven use? So there's a lot of questions, and we have a lot of resources and a lot of partners who have those resources, but they're not all in one place and kind of being prompted by the context of a local community. So we really hope that toolkit will be helpful for places across the state, and we'll get that the project up and running very shortly, and hopefully get that launched next year in 2027. And so we're excited about that. So I do want to open it up to questions about our new It Takes a Village preservation curriculum, or any questions for Rose about the Maine Redevelopment Land Bank Authority, and what they're getting up to. Feel free to add things in the chat as well if you'd like. I'll keep an eye on that. Well, I guess I have a question for Rose while others formulate theirs. You shared a few of the example lightning grants. Oh, looks like Rose got kicked out somehow. She's coming back on.
Sorry about that. That was weird.
No worries. So Rose, I was just going to ask you, we have the lightning grants. You shared a few examples of those.
Yeah.
And what were those funds used for in one or a couple of those examples?
Yeah. So in Holton, went toward I think there was some like reappointing of bricks. Van Buren was a new roof. I think the building in Jonesport needed some new cribbing. In Union, we did that was for roof and siding. So it's that kind of really the I guess anything in the four walls and roof that just to get it stabilized. I think we could also like if there's some rotted siding or or like rotted footers might be something as well that we could approve the funds for. It's that kind of stuff.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I think in talking with Rose and the other staff, we were excited to see this lightning grant exist. A lot of times when we're talking with communities, there's kind of an immediate need. Preservation is somewhat, unfortunately, of a reactive practice, and so
Yeah.
being able to provide some emergency stabilization work, to buy time, to have full conversations with communities to figure out what can we do with this building and where can we find more money for stabilization, rather than kind of the knee jerk, well, it just needs to come down because it's
Right.
leaning to one side, even though it may have been leaning to one side for 100 years. So this is really great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other
And
questions?
if there's a building that you drive by and you're like, oh, I have to look at that on my way to work every day, and you're curious about it, you know it's vacant, abandoned, contaminated, or functionally obsolete, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. Brad, I have a question for you. First of all, I think the It Takes a Village curriculum is awesome. And I think making kids aware of sort of the features of their local communities and what makes up our historic infrastructure is super important to get the next generation of preservations out there. And also, just make people appreciate, what makes Maine and our villages and communities unique. So, how are you sort of rolling this out to schools and various organizations, and what can we do locally to sort of help promote that sort of piece of curriculum?
Yeah, I think what we've discovered um, is that there's really no single Maine specific clearinghouse. Um, I mentioned that the Maine Department of Education develops curriculum themselves that's kind of open source, but there's no kind of one email we can click send and send it to everybody. So what we found is probably the most effective way is if you have educators in your network or principals, administrators, um, particularly teachers who sit on the social studies curriculum kind of committees at that elementary level. Um, we would love to be connected directly with them and can share this curriculum. Another thing that we've heard from educators is, there's always kind of a need to fill gaps within the school year. And so um, getting this in front of them to see if it's something that they could incorporate. So it really is, like a lot of things, it's that kind of one-to-one connection, or if there's leadership within your local school district or that would be interested. And I'm here to have that conversation with anyone.
That's great. Thank you for that, Brad.
In the chat, I wanted to draw attention to the sort of other relationship that we have. As Rose said, that if you know of a building that you drive by and you're concerned about it, you can also nominate that building to our most endangered historic places list. Nominations are due next Friday, June 5th. I put the link in the chat. We will be able to also take that list and communicate with our friends over at the Land Bank Authority about what is appropriate for the list versus what might be appropriate for their help more immediately. So, and Rose has also put her email in the chat if you.
Yes, thanks, Tara, for mentioning the most endangered list. And obviously, we're also here to help in any way that we can and to have that first conversation about a building you're concerned about or a building that's beloved and used in the community but could use some help as well.
I also had mentioned earlier in my presentation around recent updates that we've just recently announced 20 grants through our subgrant program in partnership with 1772 Foundation. Letters of interest for that program will open in September to maximum grant award of $10,000 to nonprofit organizations. So that's another opportunity for some funding, not necessarily as quick as the lightning grants, but also for exterior improvements to historic buildings.
All right, I'll put a last call out for questions. Tara, if you want to wrap things up.
Sure. I just want to say thank you all to those of you who are here, our new trustees, our current trustees, our members, our speakers, Rose and Brad, our staff, Brad, Kyle, and Elsie, and our longtime friends that I see here, like Judy Martin, partners like Greater Portland Landmarks, Maine Historical Society, City of Portland. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate your support and look forward to continuing our work with you. Have a good day.